Her cat just sent what might be my favorite text of the week.
I'm so excited.
Says my 8-year-old just heard the DM dilemma comment and says, I love how they gossip.
I'm like, now
hilarious.
I'm going to call myself a professional gossiper. Like, I gossip for a living. It's professional now.
It's Y101. We are Adam and Allison. And yesterday, the gossip sesh was all about Stress Stacy. She works in a restaurant. The restaurant has a marketing person who has to come in for 1 day of work a week. She does the rest from home. And whenever she comes in, she's always complaining about how stressed out she is, how much work she has to do. And everybody who works at the restaurant kind of looks at her like, well, all the work you have to do, I haven't seen you walk since you've been here. You just sit.
Right. It just feels like maybe this coworker has a little lack of awareness that it's like, yeah, there might be a lot of stresses to her job, but it's like she's not able to look around and be like, but the chefs there are probably really stressed, and the servers and the bartender, like everyone's a little stressed.
At one point yesterday, I think I raised some eyebrows because I used something like whiny little marketing girl or something. And I guess I didn't mean it quite like that. But my overall advice stands. Like, let her know that you're irritated with her. I still think that that's a good move. But then we got this follow-up DM, and it says, listening to this DM dilemma, you guys sound like my coworkers. I'm a one-person social media marketing person at an IT company. Anytime I walk around a room, someone will make a joke about how I get paid to scroll TikTok all day.
Ew.
They definitely made me feel like I don't work as hard as them, and this conversation has made me think everyone agrees with my coworkers. I know my job is more fun and creative than anyone else's, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
Ooh.
That kind of strikes a chord with me. What do you think?
It does strike a chord with me, too, and something that after the craziness of the DM dilemma yesterday, I realized I totally forgot to mention was I was that whiny marketing girl. Well, I tried not to be whiny, but I did marketing for a group of hotels and restaurants, and I would have to go on property sometime to get photo or video or something else for different marketing purposes. And I tried to make it a point to not really talk about my job because I knew that at least my job was more fun and there were perks. Like I had a set schedule. I got weekends off. I got to be at a desk most of the time. Not saying that my job wasn't stressful though, but I would get comments sometimes from people who would be like, oh, like it must be nice because I was the only marketing person. So nobody really knew what I was doing or what was on my plate. They just knew like, oh, well, she just has to do this email blast for the hotels. It's like, okay, but the restaurants have a lot going on right now and I've got to get all that done and I've got to answer all these reviews for both. So I understand that it does get very stressful.
I have a question. Like, when did we forget the phrase life isn't fair? You know, like if you're at your job and you're looking at somebody else who maybe does a little bit of a different job than you, and it seems like their job is more fun or they have to do less work or it's easier and that's not fair. I mean, I grew up learning life wasn't fair. And that some people were going to get things and I was going to get things that some other people wouldn't get. Like, life's not fair. Like that. So stop having the expectation that every single person at your job should do the exact same amount of work that you do.
That's a good point.
And I think that would cure this situation 100% because then you don't have like the run around, work with their hands people judging the person who doesn't do the same type of work as them and vice versa.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's fair to judge anyone because we don't know how these marketing people got to where they are. That might be something they're really passionate about, so they worked hard to get there and now they're in a good spot, and maybe somebody else is still on their journey of working to where they want to be. That doesn't mean you put down the person who's where they want to be.
I'd love to talk to somebody who does have one of those quote unquote fun jobs, and there are other people at work who maybe don't have the same like fun job that you do. And what do you have to deal with? I do think I kind of offer a unique perspective on this whole job debate thing, if I do say so myself, just because I have been in both positions. We're talking about how a lot of times there's a disconnect at different jobs between departments if one is perceived to have an easier job, like the marketing person who just stays on their computer all day while people are running beverages, making food and everything to the customers. Like, it seems like the chefs, the waitresses, the waiters, all that, it seems like they work harder. And I say that I have an interesting perspective on it just because I've kind of done both. Like, I had a 10-year radio career, then I worked in retail for 2 years, and now tomorrow, I'll be back in radio for 2 years.
So, yeah, you've had the creative job that's very fun but can be mentally taxing.
Exactly.
The radio job, but you've done the job where you worked at a grocery store where it was very physically hard. You were on your feet all day carrying boxes.
And I will say I have never worked as hard in radio as I did in retail. Like, I say comfortably, like, my job was way harder than any job I've ever had in radio. But that doesn't mean I don't work hard now, and it's not like mentally taxing.
Right.
But it is very good for me to remember my my retail days whenever I'm like getting a little complaining about my job now. Adrian said, I don't like whenever people think that someone who works from a computer instead of a physical labor job doesn't work as hard. My job is no walk in the park, but people think because I work from home, I've got it easy. I had plenty of arguments with my kid's father and others because I say I'm stressed, and they're like, how dare you say that whenever you don't do anything all day? But then again, there it goes back to the whole like complaining about like knowing your audience. Like, is somebody who worked a 14-hour day on their feet in the emergency department going to have a whole lot of sympathy for the marketing person who worked from home at their computer all day?
Well, but I feel like there's a big difference between, like, if I were to go complain to coworkers who I know don't have as fun of a job as I do, I would feel bad about that because it seems like there's a little lack of awareness. But if it's one of my best friends or somebody in my family, even though they might have a harder job, I would want them to validate my complaints.
I got somebody on the phone named Adam. I think this is the first ever Adam caller that we've had. Welcome to the show. Great name, man.
That's all right. I hope you look as good as I do. Anyway. So, hey, look, I was calling to comment on how you're talking about different jobs that people have and how some folks don't think it's fair.
Right.
And this may be a little rough. To be honest with you, I don't think it's fair that some folks don't take the initiative to make their life or their job what they want it to be. They kind of sit back and wait it to be handed to them.
Have you experienced that in your life? Like, maybe you've worked hard to get to where you're at and other people are like, well, that's not fair.
So I run my family's business, and a lot of folks are like, oh, well, you've got it made because you're the boss. Well, what they don't understand is it's not about being the boss. It's about being a team leader and a team member. My employees are part of my team, so I work just as hard as they do, and I don't expect them to work any harder than I do. So I think it's, life is all about what you make it instead of waiting on somebody to hand it to you.
Do you find you get extra criticism because people are like, oh, well, it's your family's business?
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you get the attitude of, hey, that's a rich guy. My family and I both worked hard to get where we're at. So, in my opinion, if you worked hard to get somewhere, then you deserve it. And if the other person didn't, well, then I'm sorry.
Thank you so much for the call, Adam. We appreciate you listening. Hey, Ray, what do you think real quick?
All right, so I work retail on the weekends and a computer job during the week. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I have a pretty good perspective on this.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the jobs are different, taxing in different ways. Like, okay, the computer job is really mentally taxing. No, I don't stand all day. But then retail is really taxing because you're on your feet. You have to deal with, like, customers in person. You don't have a chance to take a break. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really, as you said, Allison, it's just important to know your audience.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That was what Adam said.
Know your audience.
Oh, wait, sorry, Adam.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't take away my good point from me. No. So you're saying you wouldn't complain about how stressful your computer job is to your retail coworkers?
Well, honestly, I just use that I have two jobs, and that's all I say.
Yeah,
there you go.
Actually, you have said enough. You are a very hardworking person, I can tell. Thank you so much for calling the show this morning, Ray.
No problem.
All right, bye-bye.